Hello my darlings. Now I tried to do this video before and I did it on my laptop on my YouTube channel and I just could not make it appear so that you could all watch it. I don't know what I do wrong, but somehow I do it wrongly. So this I'm doing on my mobile and I'm going to do it again, hopefully. But it's a bit of a small screen, so I hope you're going to be able to see what I'm going to show you. Now, I know most of you have a globe in your house, but I don't have one. So here is my atlas with the world in it, all the countries of the world. And I'm going to tell you about a place today that is, where are we? Here we are in the UK, United Kingdom, British Isles. Over here, Whitney, Ben and Zoe. But I'm going to tell you about somewhere that is here at the end of the Mediterranean Sea. Here is a country, Israel, and Syria is there too. Let me show you a bigger picture of that. You can find these on your globe and then you'll know where I'm talking about today. Ooh, it's heavy. So I've put a circle around Jerusalem, big city of Jerusalem. Very famous city. And this whole area gets talked about a lot on the news. We call it the Middle East. Over here is Syria, where Nellie's best friend comes from. And just up from Jerusalem, we have an area called Samaria. Now, 2,000 years ago, even going back further than that actually, long way back, the people who came from this area here were called Samaritans, and they were not at all popular with the Jewish people, although they came from an area very close, and they had a different type of language, Aramaic, and they just did not like each other. The Samaritans and the people who lived south of them couldn't stand each other, and they didn't want to be anywhere near each other. They didn't want to talk to each other, and if a Samaritan came across somebody from further south, they would just totally ignore each other, walk far apart, treated each other, well, the Samaritan people were treated pretty badly. Now, I'm going to tie it in with something else I'm going to talk about. This picture here was in the paper at the weekend, and your parents probably have seen this many times on the news and in the newspapers. And I want you to take a look at these two men. This man here is called Patrick Hutchinson. Don't know this man's name. But as you can see, there are differences. This chap here, Patrick Hutchinson, he's 49 years old, he's a grandfather. And this other chap, not sure what his name is, but they don't know each other. They didn't know each other before this. But there have been lots of protests going on in the United States and in Britain and other places in the world about the differences between people who have different colour skin, white people, and people who are black, or they might have other coloured skins. And it's all about the need for us all to be equal. And at the moment it's not equal at all. And there were demonstrations going on in our cities, all to do with this. and it ended up with quite a lot of fighting going on, which is really just appalling. But this man here, he rescued this man who had been injured in all this fighting. And they were sort of on different sides of the argument. And I want to tell you something today about the people who lived in Samaria and the other people in that region. The differences between them made them hate each other, actually. And I'm going to tell you a story, and it is a story, it's a parable. Now, Jesus, and it's been proved that Jesus was a man who lived and died and walked on the earth in that area I showed you on the map that you can see on your globe. That's where he lived, and he taught people how to follow God's rules and how to, not just rules, but just the basic way to live, treating people well and treating people equally. And to help the people who were listening to him understand, he told this parable. Now, notice the words on here. It says, "Why I saved that fallen protester by the Good Samaritan." Good Samaritan. And actually, you will have heard that phrase lots of times, I'm sure. We talk about people who help us being, oh, they're a good Samaritan. They helped us out when they didn't know us. They didn't have to help us. Sometimes we talk about ambulance drivers or anyone that might go out of their way to help us as being a good Samaritan. And I want you to understand where that phrase comes from. And it comes from this story that Jesus told all the followers around, people listening to him, about being not just a good Samaritan, but being someone who loves our neighbours. And by that, I don't just mean the people that live next door or the people that live in your neighbourhood. This is what Jesus had to say about that. And it's a very good lesson to us all. Now here, this is for a book for younger children. So the pictures I know will be, for some of you, you might think, oh, that's a bit babyish. But actually, because they're nice and bright, you can see them easily. And it will help you just to visualise, especially Zoe and Lucas, what's going on. Now this is Jesus. Now they wore strange clothes over 2,000 years ago. They didn't have Swiss trainers and Nike t-shirts and so on. They wore robes, and it was very, very hot in that area of the world, still is. So here's Jesus, and this is a lawyer. So he's an educated man, quite a rich man. And he said to Jesus, he wanted to test him actually, wanted to catch him out. He said, I know the law says to love God with all my heart and to love my neighbour as myself. But who is my neighbour? So Jesus told this parable. So that's a story with a meaning. And Jesus often told stories with meanings to teach people things. Jesus told him this parable. A man was on his way to the city of Jericho. Some robbers beat him. They stole everything he had. So here he is, wandering along. And here are the robbers holding big, they look like baseball bats or rounders bats, don't they? Now the thing was, in those days, to get anywhere, you didn't hop on a train or a bus or even drive a car. Everywhere you went, you had to walk or you had to go on a donkey. And so people used to walk miles and miles and miles over days and days to get to where they needed to be. And the pathways were rough and often through mountainous areas. So you've got mountains around you, and robbers or bandits used to hide out waiting for travellers to come by. and then they would set upon them and take their stuff. Now, look, here we are. This is what happened. Here's the poor man. They've taken everything, even the robes he was wearing. And he had a money bag. Can you see? He's got a pouch here where he kept his money. They've taken that. Now, interestingly, some people come by, walking the same journey. The man was hurt. He needed help. And along came a priest. The priest saw the man, but he did not stop. Along came a helper in the temple. The temple was a very important place in those days in that area, still is. And people used to go there to worship God, and they also used to do their business there. It really was a very important place. He saw the man, but he didn't stop either. Now along came a Samaritan man, and remember, Samaritans were not popular people. They were hated. But when he saw the hurt man, he stopped. The Samaritan man cleaned up the man's wounds. So you've got the people who walked by, took no notice, just thought, oh, no. In fact, they even crossed to the other side of the road. They didn't want to be anywhere near him. But the Samaritan, here he is, he lifted the man onto his own donkey and took him down the road to an inn. So an inn is a bit like a hotel or a motel where people could stay overnight. Usually because they were doing these journeys, long journeys walking, they would need to stay somewhere overnight and then start off their journey the next day. The Samaritan man took care of the hurt man all night long. So Jesus is telling them about this very, very kind man who stopped to help this other man. In the morning, the Samaritan man gave the innkeeper 2 silver coins. Now that would have been worth a lot of money in those days, and said to the innkeeper, that's the chap who runs the hotel or the motel, take good care of him until I return. So there we are. You can see the injured man in the bed, and the Samaritan is giving the innkeeper the 2 silver coins and asking him to look after him until he comes back. And he actually said he would pay any money that was owing for the man's care. And when Jesus finished the story, he asked the lawyer, which one of the 3 men was the true neighbour? I wonder who you think was the true neighbour. And the lawyer answered, the one who took care of the hurt man. And Jesus said, go and do as he did. So the lesson Jesus was teaching was, you don't just walk by, even if it's somebody you really don't agree with. You maybe have grown up thinking that they're not very nice people or something, as in this story, but it's still up to us to be kind and caring to absolutely everybody. Now, this man here in the newspaper didn't know this other man. They were on different sides of the argument that was going on with the protesters against things to do with the way the country is run and the world is run. Grown-up issues, but nevertheless they affect all of us. And I want us to think about the need to care for everyone, whether they are people of a different colour skin, whether they are rich, whether they are poor, whether they have a job that we consider not to be a very good job, or whether they're people who have a very important job, like the 2 people who ignored the Samaritan man. They had quite important jobs in the temple, so they just ignored him. They didn't help him at all. So that's what we're thinking about, how to be a good neighbour, not just to the people who live around us, to the people who are like us, to the people who like us, but to other people too, to everyone. And we need to have a much more equal world where we see people from any country, speaking any language, doing any job or no job at all, having homes or not having homes, that we are all valued just as important as anybody else. And I think I've used this page before in the boy, the fox, no, the boy, the mole, the fox and the horse, but it's worth a reminder. This one. Do you have any other advice? Asked the boy. So he's asking the horse. Don't measure how valuable you are by the way you are treated, said the horse. Now, unfortunately, there are people who are treated really badly, and they don't feel that they have any value at all. But that's not true. Every single one of us is precious and valued, and we need to respect that and treat people equally. So that's it for today. I wonder if I'll manage to upload this one. Might be a bit of a miracle, never know. Anyway, love you all, my darlings. Bye. Here comes the hug. Love you all so much. Bye.